Welcome back to Who Died Today USA channel. In the past few days, we have received somber news about the passing of extraordinary talents. Today's episode is dedicated to honoring their memory. Additionally, we will recap the stars we have recently lost. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or the legacies of these remarkable individuals have touched your life, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you.
1.
Andrea Gibson, a pioneering voice in spoken word poetry and a fierce advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, passed away on July 14, 2025, after a 4-year battle with ovarian cancer. They were 49. Gibson died at their home in Boulder, Colorado, surrounded by their wife, Megan Falley, family, former partners, close friends, and beloved dogs. Their final moments were described as tender and full of connection, a reflection of the life they built through resilience, art, and unwavering truth. Born in Calais, Maine, on August 13, 1975, Gibson moved to Colorado in the late 1990s, finding a haven for creative freedom and political expression. They emerged as a major force in slam poetry, becoming the first winner of the Women of the World Poetry Slam in 2008 and a 4-time Denver Grand Slam champion. Gibson authored 7 poetry collections, including You Better Be Lightning and Lord of the Butterflies, blending lyrical power with themes of gender identity, mental health, and love. Their work reached millions, not just on stage, but also through their prose book co-authored with Falley, How Poetry Can Change Your Heart. Throughout their illness, Gibson continued to write with profound clarity and courage. They once described cancer not as an ending, but as medicine that led them deeper into the meaning of life. In their widely shared poem, Love Letter from the Afterlife, they offered solace. Dying is the opposite of leaving. I am more here than I ever was before. Their final chapter was documented in Come See Me in the Good Light, an award-winning film that chronicled Gibson's love story, artistic legacy, and acceptance of mortality. During its Sundance premiere, they expressed disbelief at having lived to see the film completed. Colorado Governor Jared Polis called Gibson truly one of a kind, and comedian Tig Notaro, a longtime friend, described their life as a gift that defies simple expression. Andrea Gibson leaves behind a legacy of compassion, courage, and lyrical activism. In life and in death, they taught us how to stay with grief, to stay with love, and to find the poetry in both.
2.
David Kaff, the British keyboardist and actor immortalized by his role as Viv Savage in the 1984 cult classic This Is Spinal Tap, passed away peacefully in his sleep on July 11, 2025. He was 79. Born David Caffinetti on April 17, 2025, 1946, Kaff's musical journey began with the progressive rock band Rare Bird, a group he co-founded in 1969. The band released 5 albums during their 6-year run and achieved a UK top 30 hit with the contemplative single Sympathy. Kaff also contributed his keyboard talent to Chuck Berry's The London Chuck Berry Sessions in 1972, which included the chart-topping My Ding-a-Ling. Kaff's unique blend of musical talent and comic timing found its perfect vehicle in This Is Spinal Tap, Rob Reiner's groundbreaking rock mockumentary. As Viv Savage, the enigmatic and dry-humored keyboardist, Kaff delivered some of the film's most enduring lines, including his now iconic philosophy, "Have a good time, all the time." Though his role was modest in screen time, it was memorable in impact, helping cement the film as a cult phenomenon. Following the film's release, Kaff reprised his role in promotional appearances, including a performance on Saturday Night Live in 1984, and a satirical PSA on hearing loss. While he did not feature in the band's later albums, his presence remained a fan favorite. In recent years, Caff continued to perform with the San Francisco-based band Mutual of Alameda's Wild Kingdom, where his musicianship and trademark wit were warmly embraced by new generations. Though not appearing in the upcoming sequel Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, David Caff's contribution to music and film endures. He leaves behind a legacy steeped in both sonic innovation and cultural charm. A man who, in his own words, reminded us all to have a good time, all the time. Julian McMahon's career was defined by complexity, charm, and charisma, traits most clearly embodied in his unforgettable role as Dr. Christian Troy in FX's Nip Tuck. Premiering in 2003, the series was a provocative look into the world of plastic surgery, and McMahon's portrayal of the vain, magnetic, and emotionally damaged surgeon became a cultural touchstone. Christian Troy was a role that could have easily become cliché, a handsome playboy surgeon with a dark past and questionable morals. But McMahon elevated the character far beyond the surface. With precision and depth, he gave Christian a psychological richness that allowed viewers to empathize with, and often forgive, his worst impulses. Whether navigating toxic relationships, battling personal demons, or exploring the ethics of his profession, McMahon made every moment riveting. This role was not only his breakthrough into American primetime stardom, but also a defining moment in 2000s television. Christian's dynamic with his business partner Sean McNamara, played by Dylan Walsh, offered some of the most layered and volatile male friendships ever portrayed on TV. For 6 seasons, Nip Tuck explored identity, desire, and redemption, all filtered through McMahon's magnetic screen presence. While McMahon found success elsewhere, as the villainous Doctor, Doom in Fantastic Four, and the dedicated FBI agent Jess LaCroix in FBI Most Wanted. It was Christian Troy that gave him space to stretch his craft. His performance earned him a Golden Globe nomination and a legion of loyal fans who saw in Christian both their darkest flaws and deepest wounds. Julian McMahon passed away in July 2025 after a private battle with cancer. His legacy, however, lives on in the complex, unforgettable character of Christian Troy, a role that demanded vulnerability and swagger in equal measure, and which McMahon delivered with unmatched style. David Lynch, the visionary filmmaker who passed away on January 15, 2025, at age 78, left behind an unparalleled cinematic legacy, one marked by haunting visuals, surreal storytelling, and a relentless pursuit of artistic freedom. Among the many chapters of his storied career, his struggle for creative control remains one of his most defining battles. Early in his career, Lynch learned the cost of compromise. After the success of The Elephant Man, 1980, he was offered the chance to adapt Frank Herbert's Dune. But the 1984 production spiraled into a creative nightmare. Studio interference led to a final cut that Lynch disowned, calling it a painful experience. This loss of autonomy became a turning point. From then on, Lynch insisted on complete control over sound, script, and final edit, a decision that would define the rest of his work. It was this hard-won independence that fueled masterpieces like Blue Velvet, 1986, Mulholland Drive, 2001, and the cult phenomenon Twin Peaks. These works embraced ambiguity, symbolism, and dream logic, trademarks of Lynch's now famous Lynchian style. He defied Hollywood conventions, earning both confusion and admiration from critics and fans. His final years were shaped by health struggles, including emphysema and complications from cardiac arrest. Yet, Even housebound, Lynch continued to create. Netflix had backed an unproduced limited series described as mysterious and bold, much like the man himself. He never retired, said close collaborators. He was always searching for the next idea. David Lynch's refusal to conform made him not just a filmmaker, but a movement. He taught generations of creators that staying true to a vision, however strange or unpopular, can lead to enduring impact. His death is a loss, but his legacy, a masterclass in creative resilience, will continue to inspire. Mark Snow, the Emmy-nominated composer behind some of television's most iconic scores, passed away at the age of 78 at his home in Connecticut. While his impressive career included musical contributions to Smallville, Blue Bloods, and Ghost Whisperer, it was his haunting theme for The X-Files that secured his place in pop culture history. Crafted in collaboration with series creator Chris Carter, The X-Files theme became a worldwide phenomenon. With its eerie whistle and minimalist ambiance, the track encapsulated the show's mood of suspense and the unknown. Surprisingly, the theme's signature sound emerged from a happy accident. Snow leaned on an echo function while experimenting on a keyboard. The result was a sound that not only defined the series, but also influenced decades of sci-fi and mystery scoring. Snow once cited Jerry Goldsmith's Planet of the Apes score as a formative influence, inspiring him to blend experimental techniques with emotional depth. That approach found its perfect match in The X-Files, where avant-garde elements amplified the show's blend of paranoia and wonder. Snow composed music for all 9 original seasons, as well as later revivals and spin-offs like Millennium. His contribution to The X-Files wasn't just atmospheric, it became cultural shorthand for the unexplained. The theme, charted in the UK, was sampled in remixes, and has found new life in digital spaces like TikTok. More than background music, it became an audible emblem of the 1990s fascination with the supernatural. Snow's influence extended beyond his compositions. Known for mentoring younger composers like Sean Callery, he offered sharp feedback with humor and grace. He knew how to get to the heart and truth of things, Callery said. Mark Snow leaves behind a lasting sonic legacy, one that whispers still whenever mystery calls. Richard Greenberg, the Tony-winning playwright behind Take Me Out, passed away at age 67 following a battle with cancer. Though his impressive body of work spans over 30 plays, it was Take Me Out that secured his legacy as a vital and courageous voice in contemporary American theater. Premiering off-Broadway in 2002 and making its Broadway debut in 2003, Take Me Out broke barriers by centering on a Major League Baseball player who comes out as gay. At a time when LGBTQ+ representation in sports and mainstream entertainment was still limited, Greenberg's play struck a chord with audiences and critics alike. It won the Tony Award for Best Play, along with 2 other Tonys for direction and featured actor Dennis O'Hare's unforgettable performance as Mason Marzak. The play's brilliance lies in its nuanced exploration of identity, masculinity, and vulnerability. Greenberg used baseball, a quintessential American institution, as a metaphorical field for larger questions about belonging, honesty, and social norms. His language was both lyrical and piercing, and his wit wrapped difficult truths in unforgettable dialogue. Take Me Out saw renewed success in a 2022 Broadway revival, which won another Tony for Best Revival of a Play and a second acting Tony for Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who also portrayed Marzak. The revival proved the play's enduring relevance in a society still grappling with inclusion and visibility. Beyond accolades, Greenberg's work gave actors the chance to explore richly drawn characters and audiences the space to reflect on the tensions between public image and private truth. As Dennis O'Hare wrote, "He gave me the greatest gift ever, a beautiful character to inhabit in a beautiful play." Richard Greenberg's storytelling continues to inspire. His characters, like their creator, spoke with humanity, humor, and fearless authenticity.
7.
Richard Chamberlain, long celebrated as a matinee idol and beloved television icon, lived a life shaped not only by fame, but by the quiet struggles behind the camera. While audiences adored him in roles like Dr. Kildare, and later as Father Ralph in The Thornbirds, and John Blackthorne in Shogun, Chamberlain spent much of his life concealing a core truth about himself, his identity as a gay man. Growing up in a conservative era, Chamberlain feared that revealing his sexuality would jeopardize his career. When you grow up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s being gay, it not only ain't easy, it's just impossible, he once said. Hollywood at the time expected its leading men to embody heteronormative ideals, and Chamberlain played along, avoiding questions about his personal life for decades. It wasn't until 2003, at the age of 69, that he publicly came out in his memoir, Shattered Love. This candid book detailed his emotional journey through fear, denial, therapy, and eventual acceptance. It marked a turning point, not just in his personal life, but also in his role as a cultural figure, one who chose authenticity over image, even if belatedly. By then, his legacy was already sealed through decades of acclaimed work. But it was this act of honesty, coming out after a lifetime of silence, that many see as equally heroic. Chamberlain's courage resonated deeply with those who had grown up admiring him, offering a message that it's never too late to live truthfully. His story reminds us that success isn't only about awards or ratings, but about finding peace within. Chamberlain's final years, lived openly and with grace, served as a quiet triumph over fear.
8.
Loretta Swit's legacy is defined by her groundbreaking portrayal of Major Margaret Houlihan in the iconic series MASH. When she stepped into the role in 1972, the character, initially a one-dimensional stereotype known as hot lips, was often reduced to comic relief in a male-dominated setting. But through Swit's determination and artistry, Houlihan evolved into one of television's most complex and compelling female characters. Swit didn't settle for shallow characterizations. Instead, she actively collaborated with writers to reshape Houlihan's image. She challenged the sexist nickname, argued for narrative continuity in the character's emotional arc, and infused every scene with sincerity and resolve. "I decided to try to play her as a real person, even if it meant hurting the jokes," she once said. Thanks to her efforts, Houlihan emerged as a resilient and intelligent military nurse, capable of love, leadership, and vulnerability. Swit's transformation of the role earned her 10 consecutive Emmy nominations and 2 wins, cementing her status as a pioneering force in television history. Beyond accolades, Swit's portrayal had cultural resonance. Women across the world wrote to her, crediting the role with inspiring them to pursue nursing and challenging traditional gender norms. Houlihan's journey, from being defined by her relationship with a male colleague to standing as a symbol of professionalism and empowerment, mirrored society's changing views on women. Swit later said that writing Houlihan's farewell speech in the series finale was one of her proudest moments. That speech, like her entire portrayal, left a lasting impression on viewers and television storytelling alike.
9.
Angie Stone's career is a testament to resilience, especially in an industry that often underappreciated her immense talent. From her groundbreaking start as a member of The Sequence, one of the first all-female rap groups, Stone was never short on innovation. Yet for many years, her work behind the scenes, particularly as a songwriter and background vocalist for big-name artists like Mary J. Blige and D'Angelo, left her craving recognition. In the 1990s, Stone was part of R&B groups like Vertical Hold and Devox, whose styles were seen as out of sync with mainstream tastes. She later reflected, "I really think that I was ahead of my time." Despite her contributions being sought after, Stone admitted in a 2000 interview that she felt used and invisible. "If I'm good enough to help Mary, what is the problem?" But Stone's moment arrived with the rise of the neo-soul movement. When artists like Lauryn Hill and Erykah Badu broke through, they opened the door for her sultry, layered R&B sound. Her solo debut album, Black Diamond, 1999, went gold, followed by Mahogany Soul, 2001, solidifying her place among soul music's greats. Tracks like No More Rain, In This Cloud, and Wish I Didn't Miss You became timeless anthems, with Stone receiving 3 Grammy nominations throughout her career. More than a singer, she was a survivor. Living with type 2 diabetes and navigating personal challenges, including a high-profile breakup with D'Angelo, Stone channeled pain into passion. She also inspired future generations through collaborations, acting roles, and even sharing the spotlight with her son on her final album, Love Language, 2023. Angie Stone may have spent years battling for visibility, but her legacy proves that genuine artistry cannot be silenced. She stretched, evolved, and ultimately flourished in her own time. Among the vast array of compositions Lalo Schifrin gifted to the world, none is more iconic than his electrifying theme for Mission: Impossible. Composed in 1966, the track's peculiar 5/4 time signature, pulsating rhythm, and instantly recognizable motif became not just a signature of the show. It became a hallmark of suspense and intrigue in global pop culture. Remarkably, Shiffrin composed the piece in just 3 minutes without ever seeing a single frame of the series. What made the Mission: Impossible theme so groundbreaking was its fusion of jazz elements with classical orchestration and Latin rhythm, reflecting Shiffrin's multifaceted musical upbringing. Born in Buenos Aires, trained in Paris, and deeply influenced by jazz through Dizzy Gillespie, Shiffrin had the rare ability to blur genre lines. His background allowed him to create a theme that sounded completely unlike anything else on television at the time. The theme's impact stretched far beyond the CBS show. It has accompanied 8 blockbuster films starring Tom Cruise and has been sampled in countless other projects, becoming a cultural shorthand for espionage and precision. Its complexity, paired with its accessibility, proved that experimental music could thrive in mainstream entertainment. Shiffrin often described composing as second nature. "Orchestration's not the problem for me. It's like writing a letter." That casual brilliance translated into a track so distinctive that it could draw viewers from the kitchen to the TV room with just a few notes. The Mission: Impossible theme earned Shiffrin 2 Grammys and remains a touchstone in the world of TV and film scoring. This single work encapsulates the magic of Shiffrin's artistry: technical sophistication, rhythmic daring, and emotional immediacy. Even decades after its creation, the theme continues to ignite imaginations and signal adventure. For Lalo Schifrin, "Mission Accomplished" wasn't just a phrase, it was a career-defining reality. Bobby Sherman rose to prominence in the mid-1960s as a captivating teen idol. His big break came when he was signed as a regular vocalist on ABC's musical variety show Shindig. and shortly after, he landed the role of Jeremy Bolt on the Western-style series Here Come the Brides, 1968 to 1970. This unique combination of music and acting propelled Sherman into the homes and hearts of thousands of teenagers. His singing career culminated with million-selling top 10 Billboard hits like Little Woman, La La La, If I Had You, Julie, Do You Love Me, and Easy Come, Easy Go. Despite the whirlwind fame, what stands out most is how Sherman managed the relentless demands of both careers. From 1969 to 1971, Sherman lived a non-stop cycle, filming 5 days a week in Hollywood, flying to concerts on weekends, then returning mid-week for TV shoots. As he later reflected, it was so hectic for 3 years that I didn't know what home was. The disorientation and exhaustion were profound, yet Sherman described it as the best of times because of the fans and experiences. What truly shaped his character was his ability to sustain this grueling pace, performing live concerts for adoring crowds, then delivering professional acting performances under tight shooting schedules. This dual career balancing act was a remarkable success, showcasing Sherman's dedication, discipline, and adaptability. Being equally adept at acting and singing placed him in a rare class of crossover stars. His crush-worthy image, gracing lunchboxes, posters, magazines, was backed by genuine skill and stamina. But what truly set him apart was his ability to persist through exhaustion and find joy amid the chaos. Even after retiring from show business, Sherman brought his determination into a completely different field: public service. He became an EMT, trained others, and served as a reserve officer and deputy sheriff. His shift from pop stardom to life-saving work underscores a lifelong commitment to responsibility and community. Rick Hurst, best known as the endearingly clumsy Deputy Glattis Hogg from The Dukes of Hazzard, brought a distinctive charm to 1980s television. While many actors strive to make their mark on iconic shows, Hurst didn't just play a role. He became a fan favorite who helped define the lighthearted spirit of Hazzard County. Joining the series in 1980, Hurst took over the sidekick lawman role from James Best's Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane with a warmth and comedic rhythm that fit seamlessly into the show's DNA. His portrayal of Glattis was not merely slapstick. It was imbued with a kindness and innocence that resonated with viewers. Audiences found in Glattis a character who, despite working for the antagonistic Hogg clan, was more well-meaning than menacing, more likely to trip over his own feet than pose any real threat to the Duke boys. What made Hurst's contribution to the Dukes of Hazzard particularly memorable was his comedic timing. Whether chasing the General Lee or getting tangled in Boss Hogg's schemes, Glattis's antics brought levity and relatability. Behind the scenes, Hurst was also beloved for his generosity and joy at meeting fans. He often attended reunion events, always ready to greet admirers with a smile and a story. After the series ended, he reprised his role in 2 reunion movies and continued acting in various TV roles. But Deputy Glattis remained his most recognized persona. As fellow cast member Ben Jones recalled, Hurst's laughter and good spirit never stopped until this afternoon. His legacy lives on in syndication, where the Dukes of Hazzard still draws viewers around the globe. Rick Hurst's greatest success was not just in playing a role, but in making audiences laugh for over 4 decades, and continuing to do so long after the credits rolled. Langley Pere, a formidable figure in the entertainment industry, left a legacy far beyond her career accomplishments. Though known for producing films like I Am Number 4, Arthur, and Dude, her most defining role was as a warrior, facing cancer head-on with grace, grit, and advocacy. Diagnosed in 2017 with ductal carcinoma in situ, DCIS, a highly treatable early form of breast cancer, Langley made the courageous decision to undergo a double mastectomy after learning she carried the BRCA2 gene mutation. This genetic predisposition significantly increased her risk for future cancers. The decision was not easy, but she approached it with the same sharp instinct and determination that shaped her professional life. At the time, she was juggling a vibrant career at Mosaic and raising 2 young children with her husband, screenwriter Scott Rosenberg. Just as she began reclaiming her normalcy, life threw another unimaginable challenge. In 2021, she was diagnosed with leptomeningeal metastases, a rare and aggressive cancer that had spread to her bones, brain, and spinal fluid. Undeterred, Langley turned personal adversity into purpose. She and her husband donated $2 million to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to fund critical research into this underfunded condition. While undergoing grueling treatments, Langley remained creatively engaged, developing Treatable, a dark comedy based on her experience. She continued to mentor writers and support artistic projects, exemplifying courage not just in survival, but in embracing life's fullness amid uncertainty. Langley Pere passed away on June 25, 2025, at age 44. But through her advocacy, she lit a path for others. Her gift to cancer research, her openness about her journey, and her commitment to turning pain into progress mark a legacy of both brilliance and bravery. Breaking news. Today, we uncover the stunning life story of a woman whose voice has carried the weight of generations, attracted global acclaim, and yet remained deeply human. Glattis Knight, known as the Empress of Soul, has not only conquered the music world, but has weathered personal storms and health battles to become a living testament to endurance, passion, and purpose. But what lies behind the legendary soprano and Grammy accolades? What inner fires have kept her singing through life's hottest trials? Prepare to be moved as we explore her journey, from humble beginnings in Atlanta to standing ovations in Las Vegas, and discover how she preserved her health, her spirit, and her soul along the way. On May 28, 1944, Gladys Maria Knight was born in a modest home on the northwest side of Atlanta, a part of the world where red brick church steeples pierced humid summer skies and the echoes of gospel hymns drifted through open windows. Her father, Merrill Bulby Knight Sr., worked long hours as a postal carrier, yet still made time to lead the church choir every Sunday. Her mother, Sarah Elizabeth, juggled bookkeeping and raising 4 spirited children. Music, faith, and family wove together like notes in a hymn. The radio was always on in that bustling household, playing Mahalia Jackson, Nat King Cole, and a young Ray Charles. Family dinners often turned into impromptu talent shows, where Gladys, barely 4, would sing the Victrola tunes with uncanny pitch accuracy. Village relatives whispered that her voice seemed to reach heaven itself. By 8, she was winning national talent contests. But her true education came in that home, in candlelit practicing sessions, shared pain, boundless hope. That childhood did more than nurture her talent. It forged her resilience and empathy. She learned that music could uplift weary souls and that a single note could heal generations. Long before Grammys and sold-out tours, Gladys Knight understood the sacred power of her voice and the duty it carried. Long before the spotlights and standing ovations, music lived humbly in the Knight family's living room, not as a performance, but as a prayer. In 1953, the air inside their modest Atlanta home shimmered with harmony as young Gladys, just 9 years old, stood beside her brother Merrill Bubba Knight, sister Brenda, and cousins William and Eleanor Guest. They weren't chasing fame, they were chasing joy together. and it was during a simple backyard birthday party, with paper lanterns swaying in the Georgia breeze, that something magical stirred. The guests fell silent. Then they clapped and asked for more. From school gyms to church basements, the requests kept coming. That was the moment the Pips were born, named for a cousin whose laughter lit every room, just like their sound would one day light the world. Their journey was anything but glamorous. Nights were spent rehearsing dance steps they mimicked from the radio, their bare feet echoing on the linoleum floor until their mother whispered, "Time for bed," just hours before the school bell rang. Their stage costumes, sewn by their mother's tired hands late into the night. Their tour bus, an aging Chevy held together by hope and faith, driven by their father, who asked for nothing in return but to see his children shine. It was not easy. There were long drives and shorter meals, sleepy eyes and tired feet. But for Glattis, stepping onto any stage, no matter how small, was like stepping into sunlight. She didn't just sing, she believed in every note. Even then, she understood that music wasn't just entertainment. It was how her soul spoke when words weren't enough. In 1957, that belief lifted her to the legendary Apollo Theater, where she and the Pips won Amateur Night, a rare feat for performers still too young to vote. The applause that night wasn't just for talent, it was for heart, for the little girl who sang like she'd already lived 100 lifetimes, for the family who made music not just their bond, but their way forward. And the world was listening. Coming of age in a divided America, Glattis Knight didn't just find her voice, she used it to cross borders that her feet could not. While her music soared freely through radio waves and concert halls, her body was often reminded of the walls still standing. One night she'd sing to a jubilant, integrated crowd in Chicago. The next, she'd be back in Georgia, watching her parents quietly steer the family car away from towns where a wrong glance could bring trouble. They mapped routes not just by distance, but by dignity, staying with church families, avoiding diners that would turn them away, and praying they wouldn't need to stop for gas after dark. Every show felt sacred. These weren't just performances, they were moments of refuge. Her voice, rich and pure, carried hope into rooms where people ached to feel seen, where the lyrics spoke louder than speeches. Glattis, knew early on, she wasn't just entertaining, she was healing. While other teenage girls were buying prom dresses or dreaming about first dates, Glattis was pulling on sequined gowns, masking fatigue with a smile, and stepping under hot stage lights. Stardom didn't wait for her to grow up. It demanded she grow up faster. She learned to carry herself with poise even when her heart ached, to sing through sore throats, swollen feet, and the loneliness of hotel rooms far from home. The applause was sweet, but the road was long. Then came 1961, the turning point. Every beat of my heart climbed the R&B charts like a whispered prayer finally heard. But it wasn't just a hit. It was her truth, wrapped in melody. That single was raw and trembling, like the path that led her there. And it resonated because it was real. Glattis didn't pretend to be anything she wasn't. She sang heartache like someone who'd lived it. And audiences, black and white, felt it in their bones. With the Pips at her side, polished, powerful, and precise, Glattis carved a space where elegance met endurance. Their harmonies were tight, their steps synchronized, but it was the soul in her voice that made them unforgettable. It was 1966 when the phone rang, and on the other end was Berry Gordy, the architect of Mottown. That single call shifted the stars for Glattis Knight and the Pips. They packed their hopes and harmony into bags and left Atlanta for Detroit, stepping through the doors of Hitsville, USA. a humble building where legends were made and dreams were forged through sweat, soul, and unrelenting rehearsal. Mottown was more than a label. It was a school, a crucible, a pressure cooker of talent. Glattis walked into rooms where Marvin Gaye had stood, where Smokey Robinson's pen bled poetry, where the Supremes rehearsed until their heels blistered. It could have been intimidating, but Glattis, even then, carried herself like she belonged. Because she did. Under Motown's unforgiving but visionary eye, Glattis and the Pips recorded "I Heard It Through the Grapevine." It was raw, urgent, a storm of suspicion and sorrow. And when her voice cracked through the speakers, full of ache and accusation, it didn't just top charts, it lodged itself in America's conscience. The song sold over 2 million copies and reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. But for Glattis, success was never just about numbers, it was about telling the truth. Because Glattis wasn't merely singing songs, she was living them. If I Were Your Woman wasn't a track, it was a soul's quiet plea. Neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye. Wasn't a ballad. It was the sound of a heart clinging to dignity in the face of goodbye. Every note she sang held a story, and every story carried the weight of someone who had seen joy, loss, sacrifice, and resilience up close. She worked hand in hand with her brother Bubba and genius producer Norman Whitfield, not just performing, but shaping the emotional DNA of each record. Her voice wasn't trained in studios, it was seasoned by life. And in that way, Glattis turned every lyric into lived memory. In the halls of Motown, surrounded by icons, she found not only recognition, but revelation, that her voice wasn't just powerful. It was necessary. After years under the gleaming but rigid lights of Motown, Glattis Knight was ready for something more, something freer, more honest. Signing with Buddha Records in the early 1970s wasn't just a business move. It was a personal liberation. No longer bound by formula, she stepped into her power with a voice unfiltered, untamed, and utterly her own. Then came 1973, and the midnight train that would carry her into legend. Midnight Train to Georgia wasn't just a song, it was a story, achingly human, quietly heroic. A tale of love that chooses humility over hubris, of following someone not out of weakness, but out of belief in something deeper than pride. When Glattis sang, "I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine," it didn't sound like surrender. It sounded like strength dressed in softness. The song soared to the top of both the R&B and pop charts and earned Glattis her first Grammy. But its true impact couldn't be measured in trophies. It became part of America's emotional landscape, quoted in films, hummed in kitchens, and tattooed into the memories of anyone who'd ever made a hard choice for love. People from small towns, big cities, train platforms, and faded dreamscapes heard their own stories between those chords. Glattis didn't just sing their pain and hope, she lived it with them. And she didn't stop there. Best thing that ever happened to me, I've got to use my imagination, and her work on the Claudine soundtrack, written by the visionary Curtis Mayfield, proved that Glattis was not riding a wave. She was the tide. Every note she touched was wrapped in grace. She didn't chase musical trends. She defined what soul music could be: honest, vulnerable, defiant, and healing. While others tried to stay relevant, Glattis grew roots. And in doing so, she offered something timeless. In a decade of glitter and noise, Glattis Knight emerged not just as a voice of the moment, but as the voice of something deeper, something lasting, something true. By the time the 1980s arrived, Glattis Knight had already poured decades of soul into stages across the country, from smoky clubs to grand arenas. But even voices built on faith and fire have their limits. The bright lights of Las Vegas, the endless applause, and the relentless cycle of travel began to chip away at her body. Night after night, her throat burned, her energy faded, and laryngitis lingered like a warning siren. The risk was real. She could lose her voice, the very vessel of her life's purpose. So Glattis did what few stars at the top of their game are willing to do. She slowed down. She shifted. Gone were the late-night dinners and post-show indulgences. In their place came early morning vocal warm-ups, strict routines of rest, and long stretches of silence after each show. She carried a humidifier like a sacred tool, protecting her vocal cords with the care of someone guarding a legacy. It wasn't glamorous. It was gritty, unyielding self-discipline. But in choosing balance over burnout, Glattis saved her voice and herself. Yet her truest act of strength came not from protecting her vocal range, but from confronting something far more private, her struggle with compulsive gambling. In the dazzling chaos of Las Vegas, surrounded by neon temptation and the illusion of control, Glattis found herself quietly unraveling. The pressure, the pace, the unspoken need to keep giving. It all built up. Gambling became a coping mechanism, a silent escape that eventually grew too loud to ignore. But instead of hiding it behind fame, she stepped forward with honesty. She sought help. She walked the road to recovery, and when she emerged, she didn't cover it in shame. She shared it with grace. In doing so, she gave permission to thousands of others to admit their own battles. She reminded the world that real strength isn't perfection. It's vulnerability paired with courage. Glattis Knight didn't just preserve her voice through the storms. She found a deeper one, the voice that whispers, "You're not alone," even when the spotlight fades.